We got Nick Lisherong here from Advanced Medical Partners, AMP, and a best friend of mine. So welcome, my man.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I could go into our background about how we met, but I don't know if that podcast is appropriate.
We might do another one over.
There was, I think there was a beach, a bottle of tequila, and maybe some, what you do in college. But from there on, Nick's been a great mentor, friend, and all the way through. I think we talked for lunches and drinks for how many years before we did a first commercial deal. 10. Yeah. Then he looped me into a small little commercial deal right around the corner from here, actually in South End in Charlotte. I was a new orthodontist. I think I had to get my dad to co-sign on it, but Nick walked me through the process. We got to go through it. And that one specifically, I don't know if have they rented that one out yet?
I think they finally did, yeah.
So background story, Nick smartly got into that one. We made a good, quick little bit of money, and he got us out before it did not rent out, and he saw the writing on the wall. So that was the first experience of being like, yeah, this kind of knows what he's doing. So, and then from there, I guess we talked about how my business could collab with his business, and we rode around Charlotte many times looking at a lot of different areas and places that I wanted to be in. He probably listened to hours and hours of me talk about my expansion and stuff like that. But sure. Kind of go in the process of what your development, where you started, where you are now, where we're going with AMP, and kind of just the background, where Brian fits in and all that good stuff.
Well, I mean, I think a good kicking off place is kind of reiterating what you said about building the Burrow Welchel Culp practice, and through multiple, if not dozens of locations at this point. You and I got to work closely together, and I think we both realized that in general, but even probably more specifically, medical practitioners, amongst all tenants, they've got a lot going on, and it's pretty challenging for them to fully wrap their arms and minds around what it's going to take to locate, develop, build, permit all the pieces of a practice, especially multiple practices and sometimes at the same time. I mean, I think at one point we had 5 or 6 simultaneously coming out of the ground and becoming CO'd for y'all. So that was a big lift for everyone. I think if you back up there a little bit, my partner Brian and I on the real estate side have been developing for mostly retail, office, medical office, daycares, a whole other suite of folks, but generally in those buckets for 2 decades now. And there's a huge commonality that we find with a lot of those tenants, especially because we are very hands-on with the process, and they generally need quite a bit of guidance and care through the process to get to where they ultimately want to get to. I think it really reverberates with medical practitioners because the game plan there is usually well mapped out, especially the ones that are ambitious and growing and want the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth locations. So timing, geographic location, overlap of those locations and or not, all plays into like the marketing piece, how you cross-utilize certain employees, your client base, et cetera. So it's very important that you have an exact methodology by which you go about locating and developing these practices. Mm-hmm. And I think most folks, until they really begin that process, and y'all included, they don't really realize how complex it is. No different than if I went to operate an orthodontic practice, it'd be quite a bit of a learning curve, right? Yeah. So I think first backing up a little bit and appreciating that process and understanding that there are a lot of pitfalls, and then also understanding that when it comes to your single medical practitioners and smaller, quote unquote, practitioner groups, there aren't a lot of good advisors and or development help out there in the market. Mm-hmm. Just kind of, I guess, just the way the market's built. I mean, there are lots of brokers, there are lots of turnkey developers that generally work with larger groups, quasi-hospital type groups generally, that they prefer to work with. So we set out trying to fill that void, and we did it sort of organically through the growth with you and some other clients, and now we became a lot more matter of fact about what the intent is, and it's to say, okay, y'all need a new location, multiple new locations. Let's design this out and figure out where's the funding coming from, where's all the soup to nuts development acumen coming from. do you want partial ownership in this property? And as we offer that suite of things, certain clients naturally aggregate towards understanding that that has a high value for them. And it helps secure their locations and their real estate platform in perpetuity. Whereas if you're bouncing around leasing stuff, the lease runs out, okay, got to tell our clients we're moving, right?
Yep.
It also gives you the ability to say, hey, we need 8,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet, 12,000 square feet, whatever that is. Here's the end game plan. Maybe we're going to add on pedo or some other surgical aspect to it, right?
Yep.
So it gives you flexibility long term, but you have to plan to have that flexibility, right?
Yeah, I think y'all have done a great job at that and kind of narrowed it down. So with our group, I know it was kind of full gas on, and we did multiple locations, but to the practitioner that maybe whether they're an ophthalmologist, whether they're an orthodontist, we'll use orthodontist because that's my space. But say they're out of school, they're paying off debt, they're finally at a place where they're like, hey, I can do this myself, but I need a location. And they start off by probably listening to somebody else being like, oh, go to this place, maybe you can lease here. And like you said, the market is full of brokers that are going to promise you the world in terms of, hey, this is a great location. But it's like, hey, why is that a good location? And is that going to change in this many years? If you're leasing it, you might want to be there for 30 years. Is that building going to be there for 30 years? You're going to have that ability. If it's a single practitioner, you still have the ability to find a place for them and make it work as a one-off. And then possibly once they do that one, then if they want to continue on, you'll have that relationship. I think that's a huge value with a company like A&P, working with you and Brian to be able to lift off, know you can do one, and then maybe progress into some other ones.
For sure.
So, if you're out there and you're looking at that now, I think about it too, helping with the location. So how important is the location to y'all when you think about talking to a doctor? Now, I know that me and you would always have that conversation, but if you were bringing somebody else new, what would be the first thing that you would discuss with them? They come in, they're like, hey, I saw what y'all do. I want a building. I want to be an orthodontist myself. I want to own a building.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question because to me, location is about as important as any other aspect of running that model. I think first and foremost, you have customer service, your pedigree, your education, all those things. But then a kind of a close symbiotic need is where are clients coming from? Why do we want to be where they are? And I think you can look at any aspect of commercial real estate, or residential for that matter too, but commercial's a little more exacting. And you can go pay $10 a square foot or $50 a square foot. You pay $150 a square foot if you really try. And the question is, why are you paying more per square foot? And it's directly tied to what is your offering. How far upstream with quality, customer service, hands-on approach, all the technicals are you trying to be? And I think what's important is defining that model and then running the proper market demographics to help support what model you're targeting. Because in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years, if you can avoid it and you have ambition, you don't want to be sitting in 1,200 square feet somewhere that's far away from your ideal clientele. Yeah. You'd rather build in the right location with the right square footage and map out the plan to market properly to them, to have the support staff and grow into that facility, right?
Yeah.
So I think with that, it is very important, if those are your goals, to swing for the fence, so to speak, but with some proper structure and mapping there, it is to make sure that you are and engaging with somebody that has the capability to firstly ask you those questions and understand, well, what are you trying to do, why are you trying to do it, and where are you trying to do it? Because a lot of these guys will have gone to residency somewhere or school somewhere or have a hometown, and they're going to say, hey, I know this neighborhood, I know this area, it has a huge demand, and this is where we should be. And I think that's a great approach, a great start, and then we can help you check those boxes of, well, is that true? And then more importantly, if it's true, if you look down the line, do you want 2 locations or do you want 20? Because we can help you figure out how those will branch together in a larger MSA or across multiple MSAs across the country if you want, right? Yeah. But figuring that out from the front end is incredibly important, so you're not backstepping as you get into the middle of your stride and have your clients really kind of reverberating to where your location is centrally located initially.
Now, you made a good point there. People wanting to go into They usually have a specific place. They want to go back home. They want to go where their girlfriend's family is, whatever the case may be. But they get a specific idea. And we've talked about building, but AMP will also identify other places that can be great value. The building that's already there can help you get in that space, can help negotiate that. Maybe talk a little bit about the savings and the experience you have on negotiating spaces versus like me or just a broker off the street would come in and be like, yeah, I want to be there. And they're like, okay, it's this much square footage. And that's the point.
I think, you also have to decide what you want your front door to look like, right? So, there are certain practices for various reasons want to be in a high rise somewhere or want to be in walking traffic in downtown, pick a city, right? Personally, that's not a fit for me, for my business, for my offices, just because I don't like parking in parking decks and dealing with traffic, right? Yep. But I also think specifically with orthodontists and other similar type practices, a lot of your clientele lives in the suburbs because they don't feel like dealing with that parking, elevators, et cetera, either. So you have to really drill in and say, where do we want to be and why do we want to be there? And again, that's a multi-step process. But as you move out of those very, very center city corridors, you're able to generally, it is a lot of effort and takes a lot of time and ingenuity to locate, but you're able to find parcels to develop your own standalone space. And that gives you presence, it gives you ease of parking, it gives you lots of things that both you, your employees, and your clients all appreciate. Yeah. So I think starting there is important. And then on the back of that, if for some reason you want to, if you're less concerned with, like, let's say building aesthetics, you can certainly find, or we can help you find an existing property and breathe new life into it. It's not hard to do. A lot of times you will save some money doing that. It depends on how competitive the market is. But you may not end up with the same level of fit and finish at the end of the day. Like, as we sit in y'all's office, the amount of people that have walked through here and told me, wow, it's the nicest office I've ever been in Charlotte. And they're right now, y'all did a lot to build the inside of this. From a TI standpoint, immaculately, and you'll do across all of your properties. And I think that does translate to what you're trying to be in this market. Yeah. It doesn't mean everybody has to be that, but it does mean you need to define what you're trying to be, right? Yeah. So again, it kind of goes all over the map, and we can help guide you in any direction that you think you want to choose, but we will give you the pros and cons of all of it. And then hopefully dial that in from a geographic set, from a structural set, from what does your aesthetic look like. And then also kind of walking through knowing the model, knowing lots of doctors in it very intimately, we can help ask other questions about, well, what are you? How many people are you trying to get through the door? What does your revenue stack look like? What timeline do you think it's going to take to fill that? And we can help you kind of massage that so that you're not having some burn rate out of the gate that's just untenable. Yeah. There are a lot of ways that we can help with the different ways, different funding capacities, different interest-only programs, deferred rent, deferred various things, being that we are the developer and the landlord, and sometimes as is the case with y'all, a partnership in that landlord entity. So there is a lot of flexibility to help make sure everybody's set out to win, and that's all downstream from what does it cost to build this, what does the debt cost to service, and how do we get a proper TI allowance and matrix in here to make it most advantageous for the end user.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. For us, using AMP has been fantastic because, like Nick was saying before, we also are practitioners that are trying to be, if we were trying to be real estate developers at the same time, it would have been a nightmare. As you know, it was hard enough for you to get us to get all on to reply to an email, and all the stuff that we just don't know that goes into it, dealing with the city, dealing with permitting, dealing with all this stuff. And you're like, oh my God, how do you even come about that? Well, having y'all there to push that through and get it going almost was like, tons of weight off your back. And not to mention having more of a partner versus some boilerplate developer that's going to come and be like, oh yeah, we'll build a fit. And they're just going to come in and build it. And then you're going to deal with the bank and you're going to deal with them, and you're never going to be able to hear from them. You're not going to have communication. We've dealt with that before. So it was just a whole different experience with AMP. And so I think that people out there should really take that as pure value in terms of having the word partner in there versus like, yeah, we'll build that for you. No problem. Build it. See ya. deal with it, that type of thing. Now, you said something before, and I think you were right. I think a lot of people that get into, and we'll use the orthodontic space, but insert medical professional, just the way, they went through undergrad, they went through medical school, dental school, they went through all this stuff, and we tend to be a little bit where we want to have our handprint on it. We have an idea of what we want it that way. So I feel like you're right on the building part of it, being able to be a part of that and say, hey, I've worked in 3 different offices before I'm making my move. I like this about this one, didn't like that, don't need an office in the back, want it in the front. Whatever the case may be, being able to have that, ability to choose that. Now, my question would be timeline-wise. So we have some people out there that might be interested in doing this. Say they're out 2 years and they're like, hey, I'm building up some equity. Debt's not killing me right now. I'm making some good cash flow. I want to do this. It's on the forefront of my head. I don't want to make the move yet, but when should they start addressing with A&P?
The short answer is you can't ever start soon enough, because everything, even if you just break it down to the permitting process, things take much longer than you could ever anticipate them, and every year that timeline expands. If you've ever been to the post office, then you might have an idea of what we're talking about on a higher level. But I think once you become serious and committed to the idea is when you should start. If you're not entirely sure, then it warrants a conversation, because that might help you figure out that process. And we're glad to be sounding boards just for that piece alone, because we do like helping people. Mm-hmm. And I think, kind of touching back on your partner and partnership aspect comment, like that's how Brian and I view this process. We are your partners, you are our partners. And that goes both ways, because for us, it secures our credit risk in any development. Like, we get to know you, we understand your wants, your needs, your problems, your dreams, all those things. And we know good and well that you're not doing this to run it for 2 years and then go work at wherever else, Burger King, right? Like, this is your future, and we want to help map that out. Is that 5 years before you went on another location? Is it 10? What does it look like? How many, right? And as part of figuring that out, we can help you build to that dream, but also we kind of can help guide some of the risk parameters within that dream. And we're incentivized to do that because at the end of the day, we sleep well when we know that our tenants are functioning properly at their highest level. And there are a lot of intricacies to doing that on the practice side, certainly the operational side and the real estate side. But I think, what was the origination of that question?
So basically, it was like timing wise, like, I think you put it perfectly. Like, there's never early enough. Like, if you pretty much, you're going to do it. So if you're a young practitioner, you're like, hey, this is my dream, but you're always going to have, like they always said, there's always going to be an excuse to put it off. Like, I'm going to get through next year. I'm getting paid pretty well here at insert orthodontist office that I'll never be able to own or operate. And I've seen this happen time after time. 1 year in, they're like, oh yeah, once I pay off a little debt, I'm going to do it. Then we look 10 years in, they're still working at that. And they're like, yeah, I'm still doing pretty good. I'm like, yeah, but I know you told me 5 years ago you were going to be out of this. So is that really their dream? I would encourage people, and I think you would too, to start having that conversation, because it is scary. You're like, God, I'm going to build this building and I got to do it all myself. Got to do this. But, I think a lot of people in our industry would do that if they had support. And, with y'all, it's very simple. You have that consultation versus somebody that would be like, hey, yeah, you want a building there? We can build it. It's going to cost this much. Go to the bank, get the money. Versus y'all are saying, okay, what's your plan? You want to do this one, and then you want to do that, and then maybe having some other value adds, like our company Smiles Ahead, being able to come in there and give some advice on, hey man, you need marketing support, you need HR support, we got this and that, supply support, stuff like that, other values that A&P can bring that possibly other developers and wouldn't be able to do. So I think the point is, if you're out there and you're even thinking about it, start early. Yeah, get in there, contact us, see what's going on. And even if you think you don't know what you're doing, because I certainly didn't know what I was doing and probably still don't. And the good thing is I don't have to know what I'm doing on the development side because Nick and A&P help out on that. And you have the amount of trust to know that, hey, this is going to work. And if it's not feeling like it's working, you can go to them and be like we've had to do multiple times, get on calls, be like, hey man, this is this is that. And they come up with solutions like he was talking about. There's a lot of variability on how you can do it, how you can make it affordable, so your lifestyle is still, you can still live as a practitioner, but you're also investing on yourself in the back end instead of investing in somebody else for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So I think that brings a ton of value to it.
I mean, there have obviously been circumstances that well that I think as Burrow Welchel Culp and the conglomerate that it has become started reaching out to do different types of things, right? General dentistry, some other things. And sometimes you don't, and it's a different example than some guy right out of school, right? I mean, y'all had the horsepower, you had the doctors, you had the Jack Burrow who'd seen just about everything until he saw some stuff he didn't want to see, right?
Yeah.
But I think through that process, and I think early on, I questioned some of it because not because I didn't think y'all could do it. It's because I know y'all can do certain things so well.
Right.
And you were sort of playing down, in my opinion. I think long term, maybe you realize that. And let's probably edit this out so it doesn't sound pejorative to dentists. But I think the point being, though, is like we are capable of helping guide through that process and also kind of hitting reverse sometimes. Like a few of those properties we helped y'all step back out of, we released it to operators that really want to be in there and run general dentistry, and some others that we helped unwind so y'all can focus on your core competencies, which kind of ties back into like the nicest, the biggest, the sharpest looking, the most well-run, efficient orthodontic practices and pedo that can exist, right? So it's a no-brainer to focus on that. But the point is, sometimes you have to be nimble, and you don't want to be sitting there saying, well, now what do we do? And just let it all crash and burn. It's like, no, we can reverse engineer this stuff and get you out of it. We all have to be on the same page. Let us know in advance, and we can help you work through those processes. Because conveniently, medical office space is in high demand. So you're not really stepping into something, assuming we check the boxes on demographics and geolocation, et cetera. You're not stepping into a process that can't be unwound. Obviously, you don't do it if you think you're going to unwind it, but we can help you salvage the future. If for some reason, whatever, you decide you want to go join the military or something, that'd be a good example of a reason to leave orthodontics, because that'd be, I think, a cool endeavor, right? And or other similar things perhaps. But I think ultimately it really boils down to how much of this is this your dream? Yeah. And do you want to pursue that dream? And like Sam alluded to, like, you have a step-in period to that where if you don't pull the trigger, maybe it's premature, maybe it's too late, but you gotta make the decision. And only you can make it. We're happy to help guide you and tell you some of the cost parameters, some of the challenges we've seen, some other things. And as Sam alluded to, I think there's going to be a second layer here, whether it's Smiles Ahead or some other subsidiary of that, where we can actually, as a group, provide very specific, very direct market knowledge, occupational best practices, so forth and so on, marketing, all the way through accounting, finance. I mean, pick any of it, legal. But we can help you build that practice and remove a lot of the risk.
Yep.
And as we have conversations, it'll become evident of what you're trying to shoot for and how much we need to help put in some guardrails to make sure you get there effectively.
Yeah, I think that's a cool aspect of what possibly could come. Being able to, because the scariest part of is being by yourself, and you're looking at this corporate office you might be working at, and they're like, oh my God, how would I be the marketing manager, the HR, hire people, this and that. Some people are all about it. Some people, that's why they don't want to pull the trigger. So you can take those aspects, and we want to develop something that's great for the doctor to get started. So we're not going to be someone that comes in there and says, you got to be stuck with us for 20 years, 10 years, forever. We can get you in a building that you want to be, set you want to be, get those aspects that no doctor ever wants to deal with, get you up off the ground, coach you on the cash flow you're going to need to get started, how much you're going to need to take from the bank that you don't think you're going to need, and support you through that. Then once you get the ball start rolling, there can be some ways that it can all be yours at that point. So, and then just being able to have that opportunity to talk to AMP, to Smiles Ahead, to different groups, and be like, hey, this is customary to what this person might want versus, a boilerplate company that might just do it all at one time. So I think that's some real value that could be brought there.
Well, and I think, anytime you go out into a new endeavor, a new business, even expanding one, there's a lot of uncertainty. And with that comes some scared times and things that, you may you may step back off the ledge because of that. And I think our goal as A&P in combination with Sam and his doctors, our goal is to help settle some of that uncertainty. We're still going to tell you it's going to be scary. It's going to be real. You're going to be living on the edge, and you probably don't want to fail living there. But we can help remove some of the unknowns and quantify, like, look, here are the hurdles you're going to have to hit. Here's how you go about doing that. And then it's on you to do it with support, right? But it's not like, oh, well, cool, I'm going to go open a practice, and what does that mean, and what do I do? Like that, no, I would suggest to no one that they go do that, no matter how you educate yourself on the process. We conveniently have a lot of people and players that have done all aspects of this for a long time at the table that can help guide you through that.
Now, not to, to plug your other businesses and stuff, it's not like you just run a development company. You have multiple other businesses that you've come into, help either create, help, so business-wise, you also have a very good knack on that. So not only on the development side, but as you were alluding to before, I think one time on this specific example, we had this either small practice, small property, whatever it was insert 0.05% of the company, and we had like 3